Hey there, welcome to Brian's Narratives. We've got a couple great stories I'm going to share with you. Let's dive right in. Throwaway for safety. I don't even know where to start on this one. The past 6 months have been an absolute cluster, and it only seems like it's getting worse. My best friend since elementary school, who I'll call Alice, passed away in February from cancer. She had a 2-year-old daughter who went into the custody of her mom after she passed away, who I'll call Alexis. Last month, Alexis showed up on our doorstep unannounced, telling my husband he needs to take responsibility for his child and either take custody or start finally paying child support. She says that Alice had told her when her daughter was born who the father was, but didn't want anything to do with him. Now, to answer the inevitable, Alice was a traveling nurse and made a lot of money, which is the only reason I can think of for why she didn't go for child support. During this conversation, my husband had the worst panic attack he's ever had. So we had to end the conversation before I could get more details. My husband's story is this. I don't even know. He said that Alice's daughter is probably his, but that it isn't what I think. Almost 3 years ago, we threw a large housewarming party, and we just moved into our dream home after I finally finished residency and was set to make real money. For once, Alice was in town and set to be at the party, but I was called into work before she got there. I didn't get back till about 3 a.m. The party was winding down, my husband was passed out upstairs, and Alice had already left the party, which at the time I didn't find strange as we hadn't seen each other in months. Now my husband claims he woke up in the middle of the night to Alice on top of him, but he passed out again before he could say anything. He claims he never told me because he was worried I wouldn't believe him, which I don't know if I do. He showed me some text he sent his best friend the next day asking for his advice about him thinking someone raped him. But if he cheated, he could have had the conversation as evidence, especially since he never said Alice specifically. Ever since the party, he has been very distant with Alice, and after that, she had her daughter, and he would even find excuses not to be around the house when she would visit at all. I don't know if that's because he cheated or if Alice did actually rape him and this was a traumatic experience. Honestly, Reddit, I just don't know what to do. I've known Alice since we were children, and she had never come across as that kind of person. But I've known my husband for over a decade, and he's not once ever given the inclination of being a cheater. He's an attractive guy, and I've seen the looks he gets at the gym, and he's never given more than a glance. What in the world should I do? How do I figure out what the truth is here when Alice isn't even around now to defend herself? She never even implied she liked my husband, let alone want to sleep with him. I told my husband he needs to get a DNA test before anything is decided on the child's part. But in the meantime, he needs to move out while I think about what I'm going to do here. Okay, let me give you an update. After talking with you here, I've come to the realization that my husband is being truthful, and my best friend did rape him. Several people pointed out that Alice was not liking my husband. If it was an affair, she would have told me when she was dying, if only to separate us. You're absolutely right. I was there in the room while she passed. I held her hand for days. We talked about so much. If it was just an affair, she would have told me at this point. But if she raped my husband, she wouldn't have said a word. That's the type of thing horrible people take to the grave. I've also come to the realization that I made a terrible mistake asking my husband to leave for a few days while I gather my thoughts. Not to make excuses, but losing my best friend to cancer, a long-time friend to cancer, was brutal. To say that I was devastated wouldn't do it justice. That it happened only 6 months ago and I'm still feeling it every day. So to have this thrown on me, it's like I'm losing her all over again. Either she betrayed me and had sex with my husband, or she betrayed me and raped my husband. Not only have I lost her, but now I've lost the good memories, an entire lifetime's worth. It was impossible for me to look at him and not also see her and be struck with the horror and realization of that loss all over again. I felt I needed to be able to break down and grieve and think without the fresh wave of loss I get every time I saw him. It was wrong of me to ask him to leave. You're right, though. And as of a few minutes ago, I've righted this wrong. I called my husband. I apologized. I told him I believe him and begged him to come home. He said He'll be home in a half an hour at most, and I'm going to support my husband the way I know he would have supported me. I've been an off and on Reddit user for several years, and sometimes the advice given on subreddits like these can be a bit hit or miss, but today, you guys did me some good. You've helped me realize not only that I was wrong and being stupid at it, but that I was hurting the person that needed me most. I was selfish. I have no idea what we're going to do as far as the potential daughter is concerned, but I can assure you we'll deal with it together. It's going to take a lot of time and probably a lot of therapy to grieve this new loss. I feel numb now, as though I'll never cry again. My best friend possibly took advantage of my husband, which means she was no friend of mine to begin with. She flaunted it, coming to my house, sitting with me, and gabbing. She brought her child here, trying to rub it in his face right in front of me. She tortured the man I loved, and I was an unknown party to it all. I feel at this point sick to my stomach over how many times she came over just to hold it over him. I'm honestly at loss on how to make that up to him. If you all have any ideas, please feel free to give them to me. I think I'll need all the help that I can get. Tomorrow, I'm going to take a leave of absence from work just until we can figure out our next steps and we can get our heads on straight. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so let's share some community responses. Brilliant Emphasis 862 says, wow. Original poster, that is a mess. Paternity test for sure. The old text the next day sealed it for me. I think your friend took advantage of your husband. Good luck. This is the story of the day for me. All right, Nymphe Evernell says this, I'm glad the top comments are all so understanding this time because I've seen really similar stories on here where people absolutely just crap on a woman in the same position. Basically, she cheated, dude. You need to dump her, no matter what the circumstances are. Next up, Proofreads a Lot says this, sexual assault survivors in general are often reluctant to make a report because they face a lot of doubt and shame. Male sexual assault survivors are even less likely to make a report because they are rarely believed and face derision because sex involves an involuntary physical response on their part for which ignorant people blame them. Finally, Peaceful Spirit 9 says, very good points. Seems odd, though, that he was passed out when the party was still going on and that he passed out again when he woke up and was being assaulted. Perhaps she drugged him. Just an option. So what do you guys think? What should they do? And do you think he was taken advantage of, or was he part of it? Okay, so this next story up, my husband's mistress doesn't know that we are 3 women in that relationship. I won't tell her that. Okay, so let's get into the juicy details of this story. About 4 years ago, I discovered that my husband is cheating on me with the typical cliche of a stupid young girl who is barely out of college and tries to climb to a higher position by sleeping with a new boss. Almost 4 years have passed, and she continues to earn the same in the same position. Maybe someday she'll realize she's wasting her time with my idiot husband. But anyway, I've always known about the secret relationship, but I won't say anything for the simple fact that I'd rather be a cuckold with my money until all my kids turn 18 and I can leave with a cuckold who has to be alone for some blood-sucking lawyers and has to go rent a small apartment with 4 children. The other big reason is that if I get divorced and he remarries that woman, I won't let my children spend time with a woman who clearly fills their head with bad ideas about me. She hates me even though I don't know her. I don't want my kids to be forced with someone who maybe will hate them too. I don't even know if that woman will treat them badly, and they're minors. They would be forced to spend time with her because my husband could easily have most of the custody because he earns more than me. I don't want that. I want to still have my kids with me. I prefer to save myself the headache of making a scandal that is going to affect my children. My husband is an easy idiot, and he hides it very well. He treats me like he loves me, loves the kids, and most of all, I have full access to all credit cards as always. I'm going to divorce him when the last of my children reach the age of maturity. So like that, I can avoid shared custody with him. My children will be adults to understand things that a small child would not understand. Anyway, his mistress, she's stupid. And I don't say it just because she has sex with my husband. She is, because she just fell in love with that moron who doesn't give her anything good in return. She sends him messages such as, "Do you prefer me over your wife? Are you going to leave her? You're going to leave her, right? I want us to be together. You don't sleep with her anymore, do you? Do you treat her badly? Your wife is an ugly witch. I'm sure I feel better, doesn't it?" Now my husband, he replies to those messages are just, "Yes, I treat her badly as you told me. I don't touch her anymore. We'll be together soon," etc. But they're all lies. He has never treated me badly. He is a totally loving man who, even now, we never have stopped sleeping together, and so I don't want him to suspect that I know anything, even though we have intimacy every Pope's death, because I don't want to. I think it's obvious that if he didn't get divorced in 4 years, it's because he doesn't intend to. Anyway, that silly girl seems to be really in love with him and thinks he loves her. She does everything for him. Recently, I discovered that he has another mistress. He says the same thing to this girl, but she is smarter because she only asks for gifts and that's it. From the message I read, they don't seem to have a relationship beyond the monetary because she's pretty cold. I guess she wants more expensive gifts, but my husband can't spend too much, or I'd notice that. She's smart. On the other hand, the first mistress is totally convinced that my husband sleeps only with her and no one else, and that he treats me badly, and they're going to live together in a castle of clouds, I guess. She doesn't know we're almost a harem, and she's not even the favorite concubine at this point. Okay, let me update you. No, I didn't marry him for the money, and I really loved him. When we met, he wasn't rich, and he's not rich now either. We just have a good life. Yes, I've been saving money. I'm prepared for anything else that might happen, and I know this might not go perfectly. I have other plans if things don't go my way. But ideally, this could continue like this. About how I feel, I'm relaxed. My life is normal, even though I know it's not. I have a good relationship with my husband. Although it is hard to believe, he's an idiot, but it's easy to hide the true feelings. People always do that. I don't feel anything for him anymore, so it's much easier for me to talk with him. We're not cold with each other or anything like that. I no longer feel anger for him, but for my own situation. Now, I go to therapy and I have my own trips that makes me happy. I don't want another relationship either. I'm not too interested in that. I prefer to travel. This is the most I can do to take care of my children and have them with me. If I can give one piece of advice to anyone, always work and have your own money. Even if you're a stay-at-home mom, try to do something to gain a little bit of money. Also, don't fall in love with married men either. They're just gonna use you. It's something I learned reading these messages. They just enjoy being desired but doesn't desire anyone else than themselves. And for those who comments that I'm an idiot or a doormat, I congratulate you for having the privilege of being able to divorce whenever you want and keep your kids, because yes, that is a privilege that not many of us have. I love myself, but my kids will always come first to me. All right, here's some responses from some of the listeners. Fateless115 says, "Who in the world has the time for one mistress, let alone two? I feel like I never get enough time with my wife and kids as it is." Lappy J. Del Candido says this to the original poster, "I don't understand it either. I thought about getting a lover after discovering his infidelity, but it exhausts me just thinking about hiding a relationship." Choice Fabulous says, "Plus, if he finds out first, he can divorce you before you get a chance." And then Rankvit says, "Keeping up with multiple lies and deception sounds exhausting to me. It's easier to focus on personal stability and keeping things calm." The Great Miai says, "Make sure that you document everything you can get your hands on. Carefully, of course. In some jurisdictions, you can be compensated during the divorce for money spent on affair partners during the marriage. Take pictures of the messages on his phone with your phone. Make sure that you delete every screenshot and message to yourself so he's unaware that you have them. I genuinely can't imagine how icky it must feel to be with your husband intimately while knowing he's such a slimy snake. I'd suggest you leave him now, but having spent 18 months in family court trying to protect my daughter from her father during visitation, I understand why you're making the choice you are. Good luck to you." Well, folks, that's going to do it for the two stories today. Be sure to comment, like, and follow this page.